This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Fan.
T-Wolves and OKC this evening, 7:30 KFAN. It's a Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. One of our favorites, Dane Moore, joins from OKC to discuss it. Follow him via the tweet machine at Dane Moore NBA. And there you can listen to and or learn more about his superb podcast, the Dane Moore NBA podcast. And here he is. Dane, how in the heck did you get to Oklahoma City so fast? I mean, you've been there more than a day already. When I texted you yesterday, you already were in OKC. I couldn't believe it. How'd you get there so fast?
Wait, I'm not sure if that's right. I might have texted you incorrectly. I got here last night.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe, well, because the terrorism here is there are so many people who want to go to games at OKC that I know. And they just tell me how difficult it is to get there with certain airline carriers. Is it tricky to get there or just like super expensive?
Both. There's one direct flight here each day. I know it well now. It's a 6:30 p.m. out of MSP and a 7 a.m. out of OKC.
Okay.
So I was on the 6:30 p.m. last night.
So what do you do? What do you do in Oklahoma City on a rather nondescript Tuesday night? Watch Knicks and Pacers at like a bar restaurant or something like that?
Well, I was on the plane, and the plane also didn't have internet or the TVs on there, so I only saw the fourth quarter once I got to my hotel. They also don't have cold brew coffee here, right. And so I'm feeling unprepared for my radio segment here right now as well.
Other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the play? Holy cow, what a litany of L's our guy Dane Moore is taking. Might have to call Tim Sigley at First Resource Bank and take care of that round-trip fare for you. All right, now, if you were a tickets-buying Wolves fan, other than being down 3-1 to the Thunder, what was the single biggest buzzkill from Monday night? So Dane Moore, the journalist, the podcaster, off to the side. You're a Rube fan who loves the team. What was the biggest buzzkill from a couple of nights ago?
Yeah, that you just didn't get the Julius Randle that you've gotten for the majority of the playoffs. And this team, I think, it's kind of showing it can't win at a Western Conference Finals level with a Julius Randle 5-point game where he just looks really out of rhythm. I think that was the buzzkill for the team, especially with all the attention that Ant was getting, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, just that it's this thing with Julius, right, where we're like, can all be like, all right, we were wrong about the regular season. Julius is very, very good because he did what he did against the Lakers and he did what he did against the Warriors. But he cost him. He cost him that game.
So with Anthony and something that we're going to get into an hour from now when we set up some talkbacks and Chris Finch talking about fouls being called away from the ball. You know, it caused me to think like back in the day, old school John Stockton and just little things he would do to push the envelope, little forearm shivers, elbows, holding jerseys when people were coming off picks. What's Chris talking about with the envelope pushing by Oklahoma City away from the ball to impact Edwards?
Yeah, well, I think we're seeing this like outside of Ant. In the Warriors-Rockets series, there's a lot of Steve Kerr complaining about this and warranted. Like the Rockets would just, if Steph didn't have the ball in his hands, he would try to fly off of pin down screens, right, and peel off of those and get open 3-point shots. The Wolves are trying to use Ant in a similar way, and just like the Rockets, they're probably the second most physical team in the NBA, other than the Thunder, were basically wrapping Steph up. Like Fred VanVleet would have him in a bear hug, and Steph would have to kind of navigate that and come up. Ant's seeing similar physicality off the ball. But I say that to mean like that kind of physicality goes in the NBA right now. And as evidenced by Finch's stat there, that none of those have been called off ball. It's fair, and it seems like a really weird juxtaposition, right, of, some of these touch balls we're seeing on ball in the NBA, but it's just, this happens every postseason where we go, okay, wait a minute, did we turn up the dial too much on these type of fouls and down the dial too much on other type of fouls? And in this situation, with Ant specifically, because they need to use him off ball in this series, given the attention he's getting up top when he's just dribbling up there. It's disadvantageous, but Finch is doing the thing, right? This is hurting my team. We're going to talk about it a little bit, and I get it. It looks physical. Kerr did the same thing in the Warriors series.
Dane, with Julius Randle, any idea what happened to him Monday night? I mean, just why it was it just was all around so bad. And secondly, did you happen to notice when he got pulled in the first quarter? Did he and Finch have words on the sideline? Because Ant got up and came over and escorted Randle to the bench.
Yeah, to the words thing, probably, but I'd also say that happens all the time.
Right.
And that it's they got one of those type of relationships. Maybe that doesn't excuse that behavior, and maybe that's on both of them. I'm just saying it's not unique. I think it's important that Julius seemed to get sort of mentally removed from that game. I don't think it had anything to do with Finch pulling him a minute or two early in the first quarter or anything. I was rewatching the game last night. That's what I did, and other than the play. And when I was watching, a couple of times, Julius would make a very active defensive play. He'd snatch a defensive rebound, then he'd do his little Julius Randle thing where it's let's sprint up the court, let's get out into transition, and I'm going to try and go all the way to the basket. Well, the difference in this series is when he drives up into the other side of the floor, it's Lou Dort meeting him there. It's not the smaller, shrimpier, Lakers and Warriors teams. And this Thunder team is providing physical resistance against Julius Randle. Sometimes they're fouling him, and it's not getting called, and that's frustrating Julius. But it's kind of the combination, in my opinion, of the physicality of limiting him and the frustration that's coming from it. And sometimes Julius lets that stuff spiral. For the most part, in this postseason, he hasn't. But you look at the poor game 2 in Oklahoma City, I think it was frustration about not getting fouls, frustration about getting hit. And then game 4 was the same thing. And you just can't mentally check out. And it felt like that's what he did. Julius said, when I asked him in the locker room after the game, he said he felt like a spectator in the second half of the game. And this team can't have Julius Randle being a spectator. So maybe that's on him. Maybe that's on Finch with him to work together to make sure he's not a spectator. But that performance isn't going to cut it. You're not going to get a win if you're getting that from Randle.
Very fair. At Dane Moore NBA via Twitter. Excellent commentary. When you break down the all 10, which I know you do a lot of Timberwolves games, what defense is Oklahoma City presenting that consistently troubles Anthony Edwards, and do Finchy and staff have to do a better job to help him work through it?
I thought Ant did a really good job of navigating what that was. A couple too many turnovers, maybe, but it's really just very strong defensive personnel, in terms of caliber and physicality. Right. If Anthony has Lou Dort guarding him at the point of attack, and then he has Alex Caruso filling in on the gap for help there if Ant gets past Dort, about as tough as that gets. And then you rotate Isaiah Hartenstein over at the rim, or Chet Holmgren to defend it if Ant's able to navigate 1 and 2 and get to the rim. That's just tough. So what Ant did is he penetrated and he kicked. And I thought he did a very good job of that. I didn't understand any of the be more aggressive stuff. I mean, man, if Ant would have started taking those shots through 3 people, he would have missed them. Ant is not a good mid-range shooter. Ant is not good at finishing at the rim through a crowd. Ant was driving and kicking, and the Wolves were making their threes. They scored 1.34 points per possession. They did that 5 times all regular season. The Wolves' offense worked. It just didn't work to get Anthony Edwards a bunch of buckets. Now, if you want to say we need Anthony Edwards to take more than 13 shots in a game because you maybe need that at the end, sure, then you got to get him going off ball. And that's why Finch was frustrated about that comment. He was frustrated at the end of the game when they wanted to get Ant coming off of pin downs and stuff like that. and they felt like they couldn't because it felt like the Thunder were following them. I get that. And they're going to need to do that probably to get more Ant involved. But it's better when Ant drives into the middle of the floor and passes to his teammates than when Ant drives into the middle of the floor and shoots. Those numbers aren't even close, man. So I don't know. I didn't get any of that discourse yesterday, really. And I know it's all the people who don't know what they're talking about on ESPN and stuff, but that didn't make any sense to me. I don't know where you were at on it, and apologize if you were on that side.
No, don't. And I haven't really picked a side on it, because the thing that bugged me is in game 4 is the majority of time Edwards would get the ball. It was by half court. So, shot clock's running down, and then all of a sudden Anthony gets it, and he's so far away from the basket. I mean, that clearly is scheme. They clearly are doing things to, hey, if you're going to get it and do your thing, it's going to be near the half-court stripe, and that just ain't going to work. We'll see what happens with that tonight. Hey, when you're at these Wolves games, the home games, and they boo Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, what do you think? Do you think that's outlandish, or is it warranted?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to tell people how to fan, it's part of the tribal fan experience, and it turns up the juice in there, and it's fun.
Right.
I haven't thought it to be particularly egregious. I think it often like the fouling on Shai. I think game 1 was kind of bad. That was a little bit more ticky-tacky.
Right.
So we sort of, you know how this works. Like we sort of kind of set our narratives after game 1 of the series. So it's like, all right, the fouls are going to be a problem. And I mean, there was definitely some in game 4 there too, but I don't know. It's all this stuff. Like, I don't think the refs are making that wrong call. Like, if you look up some of the literal terminology in there, if Shai is able to get his head and shoulders ahead of the defender and they bump him in a spot, that is technically a foul. And people can say it's grifting for Shai to lean over and put his head and shoulders ahead and get bumped. Like, I get that, but it is a foul. And it's the same thing with James Harden in Houston, back in the day, Luka's doing it. Unfortunately, the rule book is rewarding this stuff.
Yeah.
And frankly, Ant isn't doing it, so it goes against him, right? Like, he doesn't have sort of that same grifty craft. But it is part of the game, so I mostly just think about the league, and I'm like, you guys just make better rules. How bad, I don't know. It's just that stuff frustrates me that it seems like the players know how to grift at a pace that outpaces the league's rule adjustment.
I like
you know what
that.
I'm saying?
Yeah, that was the emphasis on the word grift. That was brilliantly laid out, and the league needs to catch up with it and hire better refs. I mean, I've said it here multiple times in my sports, either calling Vikings games or watching the NFL and the NBA. It's the officiating and maybe to a certain extent, how they're hired or the routes to getting hired. It's as bad as I've seen in a long time from a consistency standpoint, and maybe that plays into what you're talking about. Now Monday night, former Nuggets coach Mike Malone was there doing commentary for ESPN. Mike Malone, where do you think he coaches next season? Do you think he'll be a hot candidate to get a job?
Well, after every single game that the Wolves lose in the postseason, I get a bunch of on Twitter get ready for Mike Malone, buddy.
Yeah, right.
No, I think I mean, you know how much Nuggets we've watched over the past few years with the Wolves, and obviously I've enjoyed watching Jokic. He's an interesting type of coach where, I know him and Finch are cool, but it doesn't really surprise me that they were only on the same staff for 1 year there. Malone is militant, as a coach. That's his style, and Finch is, hard charging, but Finch, he's slow and Rivers, and it's a very different style, and I don't know. So I say that to mean, what type of team needs a more militant head coach? I would think more of a veteran type team. Does he kind of get into that Phoenix treadmill where it's like, all right, we're going to keep just picking a coach that's won a championship before, like Vogel and Budenholzer or whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure he'd be my type for a young team, though. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Terrence Shannon Jr., is he the new Nickeil Alexander-Walker next season?
I do think they're different, PA, but I don't think that necessarily means it's, bad. And that's probably just what it is, right? I think more likely than not, Nickeil and the money sends him out. And then the Wolves have, not just Shannon. They got Jalen Clark. They got Rod Dillingham to also handle point guard duties because Nickeil's certainly running a lot of points as well. But yeah, that's just probably the progression. And to use the Denver comparison before, right? Denver wins the championship. All right, Bruce Brown falls off the train due to financial constraints. Okay, the next year, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope falls off the train for financial constraints. The Wolves are going to hit the same thing as all teams do, where they're going to lose guys over time, maybe a guy a year like that. And the importance is having, seeds planted to grow behind them. And Denver, we know, certainly did not do that. And that's why they haven't been able to do anything. They don't have the depth. The Wolves do. Terrence Shannon Jr., Jalen Clark, Rob Dillingham. They're going to have more picks in this draft here. Josh Minot was in the rotation earlier in the season. Like there is a depth of guys who I think are going to have a good shot to be solid rotation players, if not better than that. I just got to the point thinking about this during the regular season, specifically to Nickeil, and I'm like, man, Nickeil was the most consistent player on the team all season. I know that hasn't totally been the case in the playoffs, but there was real value in that consistency from Nickeil. So if it is, tonight's his last game as a Timberwolves player, I think the Wolves will miss that consistency from him.
I'm with you on that. What do you think, if it is over tonight, what do you think is next for Naz Reid, who has that $15 million player option?
Man, it's so hard. I'm a total salary cap nerd with this stuff and have been for a long time, but it used to be like, okay, there is X amount of dollars below the salary cap that the team can spend, and we would get it in that sort of way. And then it would be like, okay, the mid-level exception is this amount of money. It's so confusing now what the spending points are because it's not about how much cap space you have. It's going to be, once you get to an expensive level like the Timberwolves, it's going to be about how much luxury tax is your ownership group willing to take on, and it's going to be crazy amounts of luxury tax when they're already paying $92 million this year of luxury tax alone. Plus, you have these roster constraints. You stay over the second apron, you can't sign players for more than the minimum. You can't aggregate guys in trade. So it's this whole complicated thing that is a lot bigger than how much is Naz Reid worth. Because this organization would obviously pay Naz Reid what he's quote unquote worth on the open market. It's just a much more complicated salary cap environment today that I think could lead to a very weird summer, not just for Naz, not just for the Timberwolves, but around the league. Nobody has cap space. Who's paying Naz? I don't get that part of it either. It's Brooklyn. I've talked to Naz about that before. He's like, he's from there. He's like, I don't need to go back to Jersey. So I don't know how it works. And it could be all these complicated trades, and we would have never saw Julius Randle and Cat and all this stuff around the league. It's a lot harder for me to prognosticate, here's 3 examples of where he could go or what it would look like. It's going to just be one of those summers where, that Shams tweet's going to hit and we're going to be like, all right, Naz is back, or all right, Naz is gone, and it's going to be to a team that we didn't expect, or a number that he resigns for that we didn't expect. I think it's going to be dramatic this summer with Naz. I know they want to bring him back. But it's certainly, it's certainly complicated, and complicated by Julius having a great postseason, largely too, right?
Right.
If you were Naz, wouldn't you want to start? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be like, it's been long enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to play the same amount the whole time. I would get that if he wanted that.
Right. There just a couple more here for Dane Moore, at Dane Moore NBA via Twitter, the leader of the Dane Moore NBA podcast. Very, very good if you follow the Wolves and or the NBA. Give it a listen and start at Dane Moore NBA on Twitter. So there have been some things that have been utterly amazing this series. For instance, the 51 three-pointers game one. You got the best two for the Thunder in Shea and Jalen Williams, outscoring the Wolves' purported best two in Ant and Julius by like 53 in the last game. But this is so solid for the Thunder, man. The turnover differential, they're plus 95. They're plus 95 in the playoffs this season with turnover differential. I mean, the squad is just complete and rock solid, right?
The turnover thing. It's such an interesting way to build your team, or like a foundation to build your team on. It's kind of football-y. You know, it's kind of like the team that's like, we're going to run the ball, we're not going to turn it over, and then our defense is going to like come at you all night. You know, because that's the thing about the Thunder is it's not only that they turn you over a bunch, it's that they don't turn the ball over themselves, and that's the difference I was saying before the series from the Warriors. Like everyone was like, well, you know, they beat the Warriors in 5 games, and that was an awesome defense, and they were number one in turnovers after they acquired Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline. And I was like, yeah, but that team also turns it over a ton. So you looked at the Wolves and Warriors series, and the Wolves turned it over 92 times in that series against the Warriors, but the Warriors turned it over 86. So there wasn't a delta there. The difference against the Thunder is the Wolves aren't taking the ball away from them.
Right.
You know, so we end up having this huge discrepancy in the possession battle, and then you throw in offensive rebounds in game 4, where they get 22 offensive rebounds in that game, and now here we go. You know, the delta increases. And then now Julius Randle doesn't play well. I'm like, I still can't even, just looking at the numbers on the box score, I'm like, how was that game close?
Yeah,
you know, from
agreed.
a Wolves perspective, when you look at some of that stuff. So you just can't do that against the Thunder. You can't just get destroyed in the possession battle, even though they're going to win it every night.
Hopefully the T-Wolves extend it this evening. Otherwise, thank you very much for the chat today. We'll stay in touch and chat on the radio soon. Okay, Dane?
Yeah, man. And also, I will say, like, the Wolves have won in these situations a lot over the course of this season, where we're like, oh, my God, they blew the 24-point lead in the fourth quarter to the Bucks. All these times when it's felt like, you know, a real bottom, they have something about them that I think you see too, and I think it starts with Finch and Ant at the top, where they do have a short memory and react in a way. And that's going to be a challenge in Oklahoma City, but I have learned to not rule that out from the Wolves, that they can play at a completely different level and not be bothered by a result the night before. But yes, appreciate you having me.
Yep, with you on that too. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. That's Dane Moore from Oklahoma City. That also was our Steve's Appliances Marathon segment. The Memorial Day sale is still taking place at Steve's. Start with the website, stevesappliances.com. There you will recognize you get fast delivery, free recycling, and guaranteed low prices. Shop Deals is a tab that you should hit and just see what's available at stevesappliances.com. But the standalone store is in Mounds View. So get the best customer service you will find and guaranteed low prices on appliances. By stopping by Steve's Appliances in Mounds View, they provide the marathons each and every radio day, 9 to noon. Second half of the radio show begins with an adversarial update. From the radio play-by-play voice for the Oklahoma City Thunder, his name is Matt Pinto, and he joins us now.
Slashes right, spins down the lane, free dunks! Oh, big right-hand sundown! Chet Holmgren, don't be so mean, and welcome home, baby! He's got a dozen. Thunder by 7 on a 7-0 rampage. Takes left wing dub, open. Snaps off a rainbow 3, in there! Chachinga, J-Dub off their money ball, oh, baby! 34 for Dub, a playoff career high. Shea's got 10 assists. Thunder back up 7.
Faith and Goal.
Matt Pinto is a radio vox for the Oklahoma City Thunder and has called their game since 2007. And he joins us now for an adversarial update. Matt, my name is Paul Allen, and good to meet you. And if you and a group ever want a fun night at Remington Park, my friend and horse owner Danny Caldwell has you guys covered, okay?
Cool. Good to meet you, Paul.
Yeah, you too, my man.
Thanks so much.
Yep, for sure. Yep. Do you permit yourself to think, hey, I think these guys are going to win the NBA championship, talking about OKC?
Oh, there's the little boy inside of you that has those sort of fantasies and dreams, I guess. As a play-by-play voice, I've, had the honor. I've been really, very blessed, Paul, to be in the league for 35 years with a number of teams that have been with the Thunder since their move from Seattle, and have been to the finals once as a broadcaster. That was in 2012 when the Thunder won the West. So, yeah, of course. I mean, given the great season they had, the dominance they exhibited throughout, and then, doing the job they have so far in the playoffs and, pushing through that, really difficult game to win in Game 4, and being on the brink now, you can't help it. It's human nature. But, you immediately, I think, recognize the caliber of the opponent, and the approach this team has taken all season has been to absolutely not get ahead of themselves. And so I'm doing my best to stay in lockstep with that, honestly.
What when you're at Target Center, and I was my son and I were sitting in section 130, so we were about 10, 15 rows below you for the last game. What do you think when you hear fans consistently booing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? And did the same thing occur in Denver and Memphis?
Not at all. I think it's a travesty, and I think what has played out based on what the head coach of the Timberwolves started and was followed by J.B. Bickerstaff in Detroit is a joke. Players that lead the league in scoring always are frequent visitors to the foul line. And there's nothing different that Shai does than that Jalen Brunson does. And yet nobody's coming down on Brunson. He uses, different abilities to draw contact and maybe embellish that contact to get the whistle because of his footwork, because of his handle, because he's excelled and become very skilled at what he does and getting to mid-range. To me, if you're going to get on a player along those lines, James Harden would have been the guy for manipulating the rules, standing outside the three-point line when he did for so long. But Shai has led the league for 5 straight years in drives to the basket. He's getting contact. He's getting to the rim. And rather than appreciating the greatness that he's exhibited consistently over a number of years, what happened in Minneapolis is every time he sniffed the ball, there's this chorus of boos. And look, fans have the right to exhibit whatever emotions and whatever thoughts and rooting interests they have. I'm not discounting that. But I just think that the fact that this has become a national narrative, that ESPN apparently, obviously I'm not watching the telecast until after the game, in real time is like assessing and determining whether or not it's foul every time Shai goes to the line. And I think it's unfortunate. I think it really minimizes the extraordinary player, athlete, sportsman that he is. He carries himself exemplary. This is not a guy that is offering any sort of bravado about the way he plays. He just goes about his business as a professional and really excels in what he's continuing to build on.
Okay, now, with all the games that you call and have called for 3.5 decades, I mean, we're I don't know if we're back to Earl Strom and Dick Bavetta, but nevertheless, you've seen a lot for a long time. Do you think the consistency or lack thereof, whether it's Oklahoma City or not, with officiating in the NBA, not only is declining, but it's about as bad as it's been in a while? Is that a fair statement?
100%.
Right.
I 100% agree with that. And I never reserve communicating that in broadcast. I feel like fans deserve kind of an honest assessment of what's unfolding, and I've not, curtailed my thoughts along those lines. And it's really, it's unfortunate because I don't know that it's gravitating in any direction aside from the Lakers always getting favorable whistles, and it's like it's baked in when you play them, and congratulations to the Timberwolves for ending that craziness. But I do think that it's incredibly uneven, and you've got to learn as the game unfolds what a foul is that night. And sometimes that doesn't reveal itself until the second half, which is not how it should be at all. I think, the thing for any broadcaster that's with a team, Paul, that we look for, as you know, is consistency and calling the game, fair on both sides and allowing the players to understand how things are going that night, what's being emphasized, what's permitted, what isn't, and then staying consistent with that.
This is Matt Pinto. He's the longtime radio play-by-play voice for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he's on the 9 to noon show. A few here to close. Wolves and OKC this evening around 7:30 on FM 100.3 KFAN. Now, Matt called Charlotte Hornets games in the 90s, which means he called games that included Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson, and the great Kevin Lynch. Kevin Lynch.
Yeah.
What do you remember about his time with Charlotte, and did he ever have a moment that led you to say, "Oh, Kevin Lynch, don't be so mean"?
I'm not sure about that. I love him as a person. Like, he's one of my favorite people in the time I've been in the league, honestly, Paul, and that's the truth. And saw him a number of times after he retired, and just, every time see him, embrace him, and just, find out what's going on with his family and all of that. Just a really, really quality person that I loved having an opportunity to call games for and get to know. But probably that was a phrase reserved for Zoe or LJ on Dunks.
So what you're saying is Bloomington Jefferson's Kevin Lynch didn't play that much when you were calling games down Charlotte way, right?
Didn't dunk much. When he was out there, it was more mid and long range.
Yeah, for sure. The Thunder, your Thunder, Matt, have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, 3 next year, and 2 in 2027. How has this been done? How did GM Sam Presti pull off this?
Well, I mean, the primary that they're living in right now was the trade of Paul George to the Clippers, getting, at the time, an historic haul back in draft capital, 5 first-rounders, opportunity for a number of pick swaps. He did the same when he dealt Russell Westbrook to Houston. So he had an eye on the future. He recognized at some point there'd be a reboot that his team needed to step into, and really felt like in a market this size, the best way and the way that he had grown up in the industry learning to build a team was primarily through the draft, and he felt like that was the way to start that rebuild when it began. Nobody had the awareness that Shea would become what he has, an MVP, a multi-time 30-plus point per game scorer, and the guy that he is with consistency on the court. So a lot of people are all over the Clippers for the trade. I know they didn't want to give up SGA. He showed promise as a rookie, but the way he's blossomed could not have been foreseen. But no, the Thunder do have a lot of draft capital they'll live into here, including 2 first-round picks in the coming draft. And it's been an outstanding job by Sam Presti of not only looking to build a roster that's layered and provides depth and length and athleticism and defensive acumen, but it's also an opportunity to continue to grow what's going on here with the draft picks they have, whether that's utilizing those in trades or keeping them and continuing to stockpile young talent.
In what ways, Matt, has Alex Caruso been such an awesome free agent acquisition?
I think, first of all, his verbal communication, that started from day one. He's very assured of himself. He understands the game at an incredibly deep level. So he's almost an extension of the coaching staff, not in a way that was off-putting to his teammates at all. He recognized they had something pretty special going here a year ago, and he wanted more to fit in than come in and be disruptive on any level. But because he communicates in the way that he does, it seems to build the confidence level of his teammates when he's on the court, and he's continuing to stay verbal when he's on the sideline. So I think that it would be number one. And then number 2 is to watch him do his stuff and diagnose what's going on and be disruptive the way he is, understanding what is and isn't within the boundaries of what he can do physically. It doesn't seem to matter when he's mismatched in terms of his height because he has the ability to get under players that are bigger and really limit, their ability to maneuver. So he's always in attack mode. He understands angles defensively, understands what help side defense is all about, and he's been a seamless, extraordinary fit in that trade that brought him from Chicago.
Lastly, and it was a trade, not free agency. Thank you very much, Josh Giddey. That's right.
Yeah.
And in closing, what do you think happens tonight? What are you expecting tonight, Matt?
Well, I mean, I think that this series has been dramatically different in the venue it's been played in. So what we don't know, and I've said this for a long time in shows that I've been on outside of the market, and I've said it often in the market, because this team is so young, they're always first. This is another first. They have an opportunity to close out a series with a chance to go to the NBA Finals. Will they be who they've been to this point in the season, or will this be a moment that becomes big and they don't play to the same form they have? I think if they play to the form they have, they're a dominant team at home, and they probably would have the upper hand. But I know Minnesota has fight. I know that they've shown that in this series in a dramatic way after the two games that unfolded to begin this series. And so the Thunder are not taking anything for granted. They know they've got to go out and play the full 48 like they did in Game 4 2 nights ago. So I'm looking forward to another close game. I think this will be a dramatic game that likely comes down to a clutch time scenario, honestly.
Call a big one tonight, as I know you will. And congratulations on such a fantastic career on the microphone here, there, and everywhere. Thank you, Matt. Have a good day.
Thank you, Paul. You too.
See ya. Matt Pinto. He's the radio Vox for the Oklahoma City Thunder. 7:30 tonight. Our Vox, Alan Horton, with Jim Peterson by his side. We'll have the KFAN descriptions of Game 5 from Paycom in Oklahoma City. Back after this.
News to Nord brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Feeling the felt every day, all year. CanterburyPark.com, poker, blackjack, and table games. You got live racing underway, so you can check out the website for the live racing schedule. Feels like Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. Think that's accurate? That's why you go to the website, CanterburyPark.com, for all details. Minnesota Twins victorious yesterday in Tampa after losing the first of this series. They're 4-2 winners. You got this Cody Clemens cat that's hitting well over 300 and just keeps homering. His dad was in attendance yesterday, so there was an moment. But Joe Ryan goes 6 and gets the victory. Today it's Lopez on the mound. Lopez 2.3 ERA. We dig that. It's a nooner affair down in Tampa. And then they get the day off, and what a pain in the backside this is. Road trip to Tampa. Okay, that's cool. And at least they get the day off, but Friday they're at Seattle. It's just like an awful flight. Now, I mean, they're not sitting, it's not middle seat terrorism, on pro, for the most part, most pro teams' charter operations. But all the same, get the W today. They're still 5 back from the Tigers, who don't lose. They've won 3 in a row. But they'll be at Seattle starting on Friday. So get the nooner today and head out west, young man.
And an opportunity to take on Ori Polanco, one of your former teammates, former member of the Minnesota Twins, who's doing decently for the Seattle Mariners. I'm looking forward to a series against the Tigers. I mean, I want to see Tariq Skubal. I want to see Jack Flaherty take on a Twins team that's hit pretty well, despite not having some of its key constituents like Royce Lewis for a long time. Now he's back, but he's been nothing special, with all due respect, and Byron Buxton when they get him back. So I'm looking forward to...
And it stinks, too. We're not going to see him for another month. I think we had that early one, and I forget how that turned out, but it was here. But we're not going to see him until towards the end of June, I believe.
Right, but that probably is like the midway point of the season. I mean, this sucker's such a marathon, the fan has learned, with the 162.
There's a lot of games.
But the Rays, I haven't watched any of this series. They're not playing at flop. You said it yesterday. They're not playing at the flop at the Trop, right?
They're playing at George's spot, George Steinbrenner Stadium. It's Yankees spring training facility.
Yep. That and you know what? That makes a lot of sense too. It's closer to Mons Venus. I always love that one.
You mentioned this with Florio earlier to the NFL. We're excited. OTA's underway for the Purple. There's going to be some audio, and we're going to get to hear from some of the players today. I think Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Vikings, will be speaking with the media. So we're going to have some of that reaction for you tomorrow.
We got the Gink. The Gink is speaking today.
The Gink is on fire. How's JJ looking, as in JJ McCarthy? That'll be, I'm sure, one of the highest or most talked about items on the OTA docket, but NFL-wise. You mentioned this with Florio. How about Terry Bradshaw? HOF, he's got a bunch of rings. Pittsburgh Steelers all-timer, of course. But he was asked on 103.7 The Buzz in Arkansas yesterday. The Buzz. Hey, what are your thoughts on the Steelers having interest in signing Aaron Rodgers? That's a joke. That, to me, is just a joke, he said. What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? The guy needs to stay in California. Go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there. He would go on in relation to Kenny Pickett, for instance. I liked Kenny Pickett. I liked him at Pitt. I know him. I know what he's like. When they got him to Pittsburgh, they didn't protect him. They didn't give him an offensive line. They wanted to run the football, but they didn't have an offensive line that could protect, and they didn't have weapons. He had no wide receivers to speak of. Then they throw a kid in there for 2 years. You got an offense that doesn't fit and doesn't work, and they can't run because their offensive line's not even good enough for a run blocking team. Now they're saying Kenny Pickett is a failure. He wasn't a failure. The Steelers were a failure. Would this be like...
That's so sour.
Yeah, no,
is he sour?
Awful. We caught him. It was a bad morning. It was a bad morning for Terry.
Well, Terry might think because I'm on in Little Rock, nobody will hear nationwide.
Yeah, that's
honestly,
possibly.
He might think that.
Is there in Vikings lore? Is there a player that could just absolutely lay waste to a franchise as he sits? I mean, I'm thinking like. I guess the answer would be maybe like a Fran.
Yeah, Fran. I the first one that came to mind, and I'm fond of Paul Krause. Okay, HOF safety, and in fact, a week from today, I believe a week from today, we're at a golf course where we're going to be doing a Vikings intensive type show, and Paul Krause generally joins that show. Yeah. So yeah, I'm fond of Paul, but there have been some times I can't remember. Maybe I should say time where. I think he eviscerated Mike Zimmer when Zimmer got fired. Just eviscerated him. So you don't get it often. It generally is the oldest of old schoolers who have done some HOF type things. Yeah. Bradshaw HOF type things, Fran the Man, Paul. They're HOFs. But it's ears opening for a lot of the public because in cancel culture, people don't hear people talk like that too often. Right. So it's like, oh, wow, I got to play that back, start thinking about it. And, where do I start? On whom do I start dunking? Yeah. What platform and how hard? Correct. But then they recognize people like Terry don't care. Yes. That I don't care. You can dunk on me all you want. This is my opinion. I mean, he went after Aaron very hard. And he said negative things about Rodgers in the past. It's if Aaron Rodgers is going to be quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't care how accomplished you are, how many rings you have, how much money you've made, or how precious your free time is. If you're going to sign up to work with somebody and you're new at the job, you absolutely should be there now. You got to be there. Yeah, you should be there now. Yep. And is he smarter than most quarterbacks in the history of the NFL? Yes. Can he still bring it from an arm talent standpoint? Yes. But so he'll pick up on it more quickly than most, but that's not the point. The point is Cam Hayward, maybe TJ Watt, DK Metcalf, a bunch of those guys, they don't want to be there either. Right. They'd rather be chilling and learning on the side too. But they're there. And that is as touchy-feely, coffee cup-ish as people think it is. It matters in sports, where the cohesion of the locker room and the culture of the locker room is established now. And he's missing that. They're missing him. Everybody will turn a blind eye if and or when he shows because they all want to win together. And if he goes out there and wins the division and finds a way to win 11, 12, or 13 games, nobody will remember this conversation at all. I'm just saying the majority of times, those put themselves above the team. It resonates in the hearts of the players and the coaches. They just won't say anything because they don't want to mess things up, Indeed. Which is kind of weak. It is kind of weak. In the NHL, the
Dallas Stars are down to the brink. They're down 3-1 after Edmonton beat them 4-1 yesterday.
Wow.
Game 5. Game 5 is tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
Tonight at 7, Florida has a chance to move on to the Stanley Cup final, go back-to-back. Carolina down 1-3. It is in Raleigh, so we'll see if they can rally in Raleigh, that being the Hurricanes down 3-1. To the NBA, though, there's 3-1s all over the place,
yep.
and, well, it's Obi Toppin.
And Halliburton got it in. Toppin for 3!
He had to repeat himself because outside of that game against the Timberwolves, Obi Toppin doesn't hit a ton of those. It included a name in there that is surely the crux of the conversation, that being Tyrese Halliburton. Halliburton last night, PA, with a fat triple-double, 32 points, 15 dimes, 12 boards. One of those dimes going to Obi Toppin, it sounded like. Oh, no big deal for just filling out the LFL to-do list. How about 4 steals? Are you into that? Would you take Tyrese Halliburton on your team with a 32, 15, 12, and 4 game? As the Pacers go up 3-1 in the series, they beat the Knicks. We heard Matt Pinto, Thunder Vox. He mentioned, well, what about Jalen Brunson? Yeah, Jalen Brunson actually does flop a ton, and it is frustrating to watch. He put up 31 last night. Cat had 24. But at the brink, the Knicks. We've gone in a very short period of time, PA. Man, let's permit ourselves to dreamweave a bit. The idea of Karl Anthony Towns, Tibbs, the Villanova kids, MSG, Spike Lee, Timothy Chalamet, and the Timberwolves playing in the finals. In like a week, it's gone to both teams down 3-1, and the lights are dimming quickly.
Right, and Indiana's big time, man. And I really, really thought the Knicks would win this series, and I thought the Knicks would have won last night too, simply because of what I saw in Game 3 and what they did without Jalen Brunson when he got his 4th and 5th fouls. I counted on Karl Anthony Towns a little too much last night. Now, FICA Fairness and Cat Act, he did hurt his knee, I think, in the 4th quarter or late 3rd, and he did not, and I don't think he returned. If he did, he was ineffective. But the Pacers beat the Wolves twice this year. I don't know what they did against OKC, but this Pacers team personifies the solidification of what we just said about Steelers offseason. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, okay, casuals certainly have heard of him. Miles Turner's been around for a while, hits threes, blocks shots. And then after that, Pascal Siakam. Now we're starting to get to the obscurity of names that non-casuals or the casuals, non-hardcore fans, aren't really going to recognize. Siakam has been massive this series as a complimentary player. Then you get to the guy you watched win, I think, a national championship with Gonzaga, Nembhard. He plays like 35, 37 minutes a game. If you look at his box score, you'd be like, why? Well, he's a glue guy. He's perfect for what they do. Neesmith off the bench. He's in and out. He's playing hurt right now. TJ McConnell's been around for like a decade and a half. He gives them 12 to 15 good minutes. And they have a cast of players who do what they're supposed to do incredibly well. So the stars like Halliburton and or Turner or Siakam or players like that, you know, they're going to play the most minutes, take the most shots, and be called upon the most, but they're not always going to come through. That's why they have a bevy of other Mathurans who can come through on a given night. The Pacers are really, really good, man.
It's amazing. Halliburton, if you remember last summer, and we were not in awe, but it was kind of a celebration tour of Ant with the Olympics bid, and then you had the Netflix thing and all of that. But Halliburton, they were kind of joking about Halliburton because he basically did nothing, I think, that entire Olympics run. Gets the medal, and it's kind of thumbs up. Thanks for at least, filling out the bench and getting on the plane and going through all the motions.
Yeah.
Here's a medal. But it was kind of, what kind of step could a Halliburton? We're looking for Ant to take steps, and Shea's doing his thing in OKC, much to our chagrin. But what kind of step is a Halliburton going to take? Man, dude, he is absolutely, when the lights are brightest, when the grind is the hardest, he is coming up aces every single freaking time. And that supporting cast that you mentioned there, they lost both times they played OKC during the season. So interesting matchup that'll take place. I don't know the health of the players. We know our stretch against OKC was wonky in the regular season, so what can you make of it? But the Pacers are unbelievable. They're going to finish out that series, maybe even in 5. And we're just hoping we get a Friday night game at Target Center, PA.
Amen. And speaking of that, if the Timberwolves happen to lose this evening, if they're bounced from the Western Conference finals, do you view the season as a success? Hit the talkback machine for that. We're going to play a lot of talkbacks in the final hour of 9 to noon today. And we have a prize to be given away to a talkbacker near the end of the radio show. We will preview that, set up some more talkbacks, maybe even play some next segment when we return to 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN.